Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cinema Smorgasbord. Was that good?
It's
It
good.
was good. Okay. My name is Will, and I'm here with a few of my friends starting a new podcast for the 24 Frames channel that we're doing. And it's going to be talking about film and things we like and dislike in a bit of longer form than a normal YouTube video. I have with me today, to my right, my friend Don. Say hi to
Hello.
the people, Don.
Hi.
Hi. And you know him, you love him, your favorite, MJ, Blast from the Past,
Hello.
coming back to the channel once more.
How's it going?
Oh, it's doing very well. What have you been up to in the interim since we last saw you?
Just the boring stuff, school and
Boring
work.
stuff. Well, you're still doing
Impregnating my wife.
Podmax podcast, right?
Yeah. The podcast, of course, Podmax podcast, where we also talk about movies. Yeah, that's about it, man. Haven't really been doing much of anything.
And the little baby's coming along, right? Cooking up in the
Yeah,
oven. Yeah.
she's getting ready to be born, I guess.
What in what'd you say, March or something like that?
Yeah, in about March, late March.
Well, congratulations. We'll have to have a Papa podcast for you. A special
Papa podcast,
Papa
where I just make
podcast. Yeah.
a bunch of really bad dad jokes.
Yeah. Or I was thinking, we could list like
Bringing
what
up baby.
which movies would be essential to show to your kid first, so they end up with good taste and stuff. Just sit her down and be like, "Listen up, this is fucking apocalypse now. Like, we're doing this, you and me."
Like, you keep your eyes open during this butchering scene.
Yeah, I'm gonna Clockwork Orange you. As a small child, just pull the eyes open.
Nothing like talking about abuse.
Yeah, exactly.
Kick off a brand new
Just
podcast.
kick off a brand new Child Abusers 101. Oh, this was a bad start. we got off to a weird
Okay,
start.
cut.
Yeah.
No.
All right, so today I figured to get an introduction to all of us, we were going to go through a couple of our favorite kind of things through cinema, whether it be directors or films or scenes, just talking about different aspects of movies that we enjoy, why we enjoy them, and how kind of our taste has been developed. I figured that would be a good place to start, just so that in the future when we have podcasts, people have some amount of context as to where we're coming from with like what we like and dislike. And I guess if you would listen to Get a Cat, Get a Horse, which is previously the podcast from the Nerd Ventures channel, you probably have some idea of what MJ and I are into. But Don is a blank slate to us, so it's going to be fun to hear his takes on stuff. And then we're going to wrap it up with a little bit of 2017 talk. Just not really like a best of, but just things that we enjoyed throughout the year. So does anybody want to volunteer? I figured we could start with some of our favorite directors. Does anybody want to volunteer to go first?
I'll start.
Okay.
And I, you said that might be one thing that we talk about, and I started to write things down, and then I wrote way too much down. So I'm gonna run through what I wrote down, and it's too much, but it'll give you an idea. So I'll just Mario Bava, Kira Kurosawa, Hitchcock, Orson Welles, Jodorowsky, Eric Romer, Fassbender, Oshima, Louis Malle, Nicholas Roeg, Kubrick, Antonioni, Bergman. And I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Now, MJ, I know you're ragingly hard at this point. Please contain yourself.
The only thing, the only one I would maybe talk about right now, because I keep watching his films and finding ones that I hadn't seen before, and all of these directors I haven't seen everything, but Orson Welles,
Oh, I love me some Orson.
yeah, I just watched Mr. Accardi.
I think the only movies I've seen from him, which is a shame, I've only seen Citizen Kane and F for Fake. I really want to see more, especially what's the Touch of Sin? Is that the one with like the bomb and the what's that one called at the beginning when the bomb
long
is, like,
take with
planted?
the bomb in the car.
Yeah.
And,
Which movie is that from?
Touch of Sin.
Touch Us In, yeah. Like everything that I've seen from him, like little bits, seems amazing, and I've loved the two movies I've seen from him. But honestly, he's kind of a blank spot for me.
So why I bring him up is because, and I think what he has in connection to some of these other directors, and what I like about certain directors is he's thinking, he's taking chances. It doesn't seem like one movie is the same as the last, and I kind of gravitate towards the directors that are like that. There are some movies like, I can tell you my favorite movie is this, but I don't know if that's my favorite director.
But he's somebody who's been like, was he somebody you discovered when you were like younger and getting into movies, or was that something that you've come to a little later?
I mean, I think I always knew about him, but then about Citizen Kane.
Yeah, I was about to say everybody knows about, right? That's
but,
like the one that everybody talks about.
But and then you get older and you actually appreciate these movies, and I keep finding ones that were restored, that I'd never seen before. So, yeah.
Are you a big Orson Welles dude, MJ?
Yeah, I'm actually looking at a giant like Orson Welles book that on my shelf right here. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. It's like one of those things you see when you're younger, like Citizen Kane, the usual. And as you get older, it's something that you begin to appreciate more because you understand the language of film and how it works, as well as just him as an individual and the age he was at when he was like doing these such like grandiose things.
You mean like voicing the Transformers movie? Isn't he?
Yeah.
Isn't he?
Well, he did do that, but like later
You say that like it's a joke.
But like I think that stuff's interesting, man. Like not only his film work, but I think him as just an individual is super interesting. But he is like a cinematic genius in a way. But he's a weird person. I have a book where he does like he's doing like having a conversation with somebody, and it's just a series of conversations, him talking to this person, and that's all the whole book is. And he is salty. Like this is of course like near the end of his career, but man, he is so salty in the book, and it's really entertaining.
He got screwed over quite a
Oh
bit.
Yeah, he got screwed so bad. What was the one where he lost like complete directorial?
The Ambersons,
yeah, that's what
Ambersons, but also Mr. Accardi. I think there were like 5 or so different prints of that, and then they made Criterion made a
I didn't know that,
like a compiled sort of probably what he had in mind with the footage available. And I think Peter Bogdanovich was involved, and some other people did the best print possible.
I think for me, I kind of gravitate towards him as a person, like in that he's a man of like extremes. Like, I don't know, just when I've read about him, it's like he'll be working really hard on a movie and like killing himself on a movie, and then he finishes it and he'll just go on like a fucking bender and like just drink himself to death and just like eat steaks for like a month or whatever. And like, I don't know, like I kind of have that like in my personality as well, where I'll either be like into something completely and like really interested in it, or I'll just be like just wasting away, just like, I don't know, it's such a funny like kind of juxtaposition. And I like the stuff I've read about him, it seems like he would be quite an interesting guy to drink with, like like you would probably just die like trying to keep up with him.
I love the I'm sure you guys have seen the Jodorowsky's Dune, but there's a point where he's trying to get Orson Welles to be in his film.
I forgot about that.
And and Orson's like, no, I don't really want anything to do with this. And he's at a restaurant and he's having like this great meal. And Jodorowsky finally says, I'll tell you what, I'll get the chef at this restaurant to make your meals for the entire film. And Orson's like, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, exactly. That's like how I would just rather be paid in like well cooked food, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I also just randomly I was watching Zodiac the other day, and I got on like the Zodiac Killer and the Black Dahlia murders, and like he's actually somebody whose name has been posited as somebody who might have killed the woman who was like the Black Dahlia woman, because I guess like because she was an actress that like ran in circles with him, and apparently there was a movie he was working on, and I don't remember what the name of it is, but it's a movie he's working on that has mannequins that are defaced in the same way that the Black Dahlia like killing was defaced. and people were like saying that maybe it was some kind of hint or clue that he was like involved with it. I don't think it's anything that's been substantiated very much at all, but I was just looking on the Wikipedia article. It was like people that might have killed her, Orson Welles. I was like, what the fuck? Like, that's pretty wild.
These movies should be re-examined.
Yeah, I know, right? It was interesting. And I mean, the one that, here's the question that I have: does Citizen Kane, is it all that? Like, do you think, like, does it hold up? You know, it's like something that people put forth as like
I think it does.
the best.
Yeah.
I think it does too.
Yeah.
I really think it does. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's kind of popular to see it and be like, oh, it was okay. I don't know. Like, I've had friends that have told me that before. They're like, oh, I don't get it. You know, it's not like, it's kind of, you know, it's just one of those things where if you're considered the greatest of all time, you're probably also considered the most overrated by a large audience, which is just part of the territory. But I really do think it, like, if you consider when it was made and the cinematic language that he was using, it is astonishing.
Well, a lot of the visuals also,
Oh my God,
he
amazing.
came up with, not so much. I mean, just because he had to figure these things out, and okay, how are we going to do this? And he just problem solving. So
Yeah, I think it totally holds up. Rosebud for life. And who are the other? I know MJ's a big Mario Bava fan. Actually, I figured he was going to mention that as one of his.
I think that's the same thing. He had these budgets, and he was able to come up with ideas on how to two silhouettes and no money at all, and he'd be able to figure out how to do a scene.
Can you give us, MJ, for people who might not know Bava as well? It's not as well known as like Wells or something. Can you give us like a brief synopsis of who he was, like, sort of in the?
Oh yeah, I mean, I guess Bava's more known for kind of like the giallo genre. He's an Italian director, but he's an interesting guy because he started with he was doing a lot of black and white films. What was it, Black Sunday? What were some of his other ones? I always forget.
Kill Baby Kill, Black Sunday,
and there was one other one that's like black.
Is it like something with a doll though? It's like, I'm misremembering.
Anyway,
so
I always
like,
need
off
to
the
look
top
at
of
my
my
list.
head.
My favorite, I mean, it's not the horror, but is Danger Diabolic. But
yeah, like his
kind of
more like
breaking
spy
away.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
That's like
Yeah.
later
And
70s
that's
stuff, right?
kind of the interesting thing with a lot of those Italian directors is that a lot of them are known for their horror stuff, but that wasn't their main thing. They
didn't shy away from
everything.
genre films, like,
No.
like, it's like Argento or whatever. After he made like Cat o' Nine Tails and stuff, he made like a romantic comedy, like in between like all of his giallo stuff. I don't remember the name of it, but it's like they were all over the place with that
Well,
shit.
what was that one that we just watched?
Deep Red.
Deep Red.
Yeah.
There was almost like a little romantic
comedy
thing going
running
in
through
there.
that, yeah.
Yeah. What else? Bava did some sword and sandal stuff. He did some westerns.
He did some kind of like monstery creature features too, right? Like,
Yeah, Kaltiki.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know if he's credited for directing that one, but I think
directing?
yeah, directing. But I don't know if he's credited for directing it, but apparently he did direct it. But yeah, it's just he's one of those directors that once he moved into the like using color, it's amazing what he does with lighting.
Yeah.
Especially in Blood and Black Lace, something like that. It's like just colors everywhere. Same thing, I think, as Eric the Conqueror, which is like a sword and sandal film he did. It's beautiful, like beautiful cinematography that he does. But yeah,
Well,
he
was
also
a cinematographer for like 30 films before he even directed one. Like,
Exactly.
I know he worked
So
on a ton of stuff.
So not only is he a director, but he's also cinematographer. But he also did matte paintings.
Oh,
So he
I
also,
didn't know that.
yeah, he's a matte painter, and so for a lot of his own films, he would sit there and do the matte paintings for his own films, as well as other directors of the time.
Yeah, I think directors who are also cinematographers who have like a strong understanding of cinematography and film language like really appeal to me. That's something that like Stanley Kubrick, I feel like, is the same way, being a still photographer and just a fantastic photographer. I really think it helps you understand visual storytelling like a lot better than somebody who comes from like sort of a more of like I know who's the guy who did like who wrote like In Bruges and Seven Psychopaths and stuff like that. Martin McDonough or something like that. Like I love his movies, but like they feel like plays to me. You know, like they don't feel like necessarily it's taking full advantage of being like a movie and telling you visual stories. Like I really I feel like I associate a little bit more with people who come from like a visual background. I don't know, maybe just me. Who else was on your list? Hodorowski, Fassbender. Who is Oshima? I don't know him.
He did Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. Did Death by Hanging.
I don't know any of those movies.
No, really?
No.
Oh, I'm gonna loan you some stuff.
And what about Kurosawa? What's your favorite Kurosawa?
Oh God, all of them.
I actually kind of tend to like his like police drama stuff a little bit more than his samurai stuff. Like I really like High and Low and Stray Dogs and stuff like that. Like I don't know, I feel like he has like a really good grasp on that stuff, like that early Toshiro Mifune stuff. I like that a little bit more than the samurai stuff. I kind of get a little lost with some of the like samurai honor bits. Like it's maybe not my thing as much. I don't know.
I find myself I keep going like seeing Louis Malle movies, and they end up like I see a movie, I like it, and Louis Malle did it.
I don't know who Louis Malle is either.
Zazie Goes to the Metro.
You and MJ have a deeper knowledge than I do. I'm still learning these things.
But let's see who else.
Are you a Louis Malle fan, MJ?
I'm not aware of his films. I know the name.
Don scooping us.
I'm familiar with the name, but I don't know the films. I haven't seen any of them that I'm aware of, at least. Maybe I have.
There's some criterions out now.
Of his stuff? Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. MJ, do you want to take it off from us too? Let's talk about some of your favorites. Directorial.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have a prepared list. I didn't.
No, it's cool. Just whatever is off here.
Do any homework, but just off the top of my head, I mean, we already mentioned Bava. I'm a big what's his holy crap, Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah.
I enjoy a lot of Alfred Hitchcock stuff.
My plan for my Christmas vacation actually is to take my Hitchcock box set down to my parents' house because I'm driving down there and they don't have like internet or anything. They live on like the fucking boonies of South Carolina. But I'm gonna take my Hitchcock box set down there and just crush Hitchcock like all Christmas. I'm so excited.
You're in for a treat.
I know.
It's so good. Like Hitchcock is one of those directors that you could easily marathon and not.
Yeah, not really get tired of. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think you'd get fatigued. Just because I think there's enough of each. Like, there's enough of like a through line through all of his films, but at the same time, there's a difference between each one. There's a lot of themes that he likes to cover, and it's interesting, kind of seeing how he explores those thoughts and ideas. Yeah, so. Another one would be Peckinpah. I'm a big Peckinpah fan. I like his kind of grit that he uses when he shoots his films. They tend to be alcohol soaked.
Yeah, they're pretty nasty.
Filmmaking. Yeah, I like that.
I like his bandana. His bandana game is strong, dude. Every time I look at pictures of him, I'm like, God damn, when I'm 60 years old, I want to look like that guy. Like, that guy looks amazing.
I've been on a Sidney Lumet kick lately. Every single time I watch one of his movies, I'm like, holy shit! Like I'm always blown away, and I don't go into it thinking like, oh man, I'm gonna love this because it's Sidney Lumet. It's one of those like things where you watch a movie and you go, who directed it? And you look at it and you, oh wow, and it's just kind of it just keeps happening.
That happens to me so many times, and with actors also. I thought I discovered this. Actress recently, Pamela Franklin, and then I looked at her filmography, and I like own 5 of her movies. And I just didn't know who it was, and they all, suddenly it all connected. And
yeah, I like when that happens, where you're just kind of going into things blind, and you discover like these amazing gems of directors as well as actors. And especially when they cross over, it's even better.
The only Peckinpah I've seen was on your recommendation, MJ, was what, Straw Dogs? Is that? I love it, man.
Straw Dogs
is tough. Yeah, it's a tough movie, but like I thought it was really good.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, one thing that I like is that Peckinpah is he's done some stuff here in El Paso, so it's fun
Oh,
watching
really?
those movies
Nice.
and being like, hey, yeah, I know where that is. I know exactly where that street is. I'm like, in the way that it's shot, it doesn't make sense. Like if you were to actually go on the street and then take a left, you'd be like, oh,
Oh, you wouldn't be there like the hotel
yeah,
in The Shining.
yeah, it's stuff like that. But so Peckinpah. Another one is Walter Hill. Early Walter Hill. I'm a big fan of his stuff.
I think
He
I've only
also
seen The
did some stuff
Warriors.
here in El Paso. Oh man, early
Warriors is
Walter
fucking
Hill is
tight though. I haven't seen
yeah.
other stuff though.
Extreme Prejudice, shot here in El
No.
Paso, is fantastic. It's like a movie. It's like three different movies like crammed into one. You get Powers Booth being, he's just like hamming it up, and he's just chewing all the scenery and taking. And then you have Nick Nolte on the other end just chewing all the scenery. So it's just them two. And it's written by John Milius.
Oh,
Oh
okay.
yeah. Did you ever
So
see
it's
that?
just like manliness, just in a
Did you
film.
Incarnate?
Did you ever see that
Yeah.
documentary they did on?
Yeah, it was so good.
It was really good. I'm sure
I have
told
not
you about
seen it, but you
it
did
was
tell
on.
me about it.
It was on Netflix. I don't think it is anymore.
Yeah, I think it's just called Milius.
Yeah, yeah. I would buy that. I would. It was very good.
Yeah,
I
it was
must know
very
him
good.
because he directed Conan, and then I know he did some writing of. He did the first draft of Apocalypse Now,
Yeah.
I think, and then
Yeah.
that was bought and changed a little bit by Coppola.
He wrote the speech that Quint gives in Jaws.
Oh yeah, yeah.
God.
That's a fantastic monologue too. That
Yeah,
monologue
well,
is so
it
good
was
when
like
they're in
10
the.
Well, it was like 10 pages, and then Robert Shaw kind of trimmed it all down to like where it was filmable. But yeah, I like a lot of everything. Otto Preminger, I really dig a lot of his stuff. A lot of the movies that I absolutely like, kind of how you were saying that I absolutely love or have impacted me in some way, are not necessarily some of my favorite directors, but the movies are just like so good. But Woody Allen is another one that I really enjoy. Anyway, I will shut up.
No, it's good. So similar question with Hitchcock. It's kind of pairing with Orson Welles and Citizen Kane. Do you think Vertigo is all that it's cracked up to be? Because that's another one that was voted #1 by the BFI. What was it, like, Sight and Sound poll? I think that was voted like best movie of all time.
Oh well, I don't know if I'd say the best movie of all time, but it's so colorful and such a good movie.
Yeah, I saw it like in the last year, and I didn't blow me away like I thought it would. I don't know.
I really enjoyed it. I like the use of colors as well as like the way in which he told his story. I thought it was
Plus
interesting.
the Vertigo zoom, the famous like
Yeah, the Zolly.
dolly in, zoom out kind of thing. Because
Yeah.
that's in Jaws too. When
Just
he's
by the way, I'm leaning over because I'm petting Pancake.
hey, as long as you're looking, or as long as you're
If
vocally
it
hitting
looks
the
just
microphone.
like I'm like, I'm not drunk.
But yeah, Hitchcock actually invented that shot.
Yeah,
for
that technique,
movie.
yeah. Yeah, it's in a lot of films actually. Like even I was watching The Samurai, Melville one. It's actually at the very beginning of that. Like there's an extended shot of,
Oh, that's another one, Melville, man.
Yeah, Melville,
Yeah.
and he's
Yeah.
like sitting in his bed, and then all of a sudden the camera does like the zoom in, dolly out, or
It's
dolly
in
in, zoom out kind of
Goodfellas.
thing. And it's like
It's in, yeah, it's in a ton of things.
it's so cool. It's just like so cool how you like recontextualize a scene just through camera movement. That's wild, you know.
So, what about early Frankenheimer?
Is he did he do Manchurian Candidate? Or
Yeah,
am I thinking of a different person? Yeah.
I think. Oh God, this is embarrassing. I need to.
I mean that's I think the only thing that I've seen from him. Or no,
did
did he do French
Seconds?
Connection too?
Seconds.
Second,
Yeah,
who did
Second.
French Connection too?
Was it
That
was
him,
one
right?
like 3 days in
3 days? No, I'm thinking of something else.
I just picked something
I
up
should
from
probably
him
not
too.
talk before I.
I know, just throwing out
I just
names.
remember the last few years I've seen like several of his films, his early films, and he was just like on the top of his game. And then apparently he was like friends with JFK, and when he died, he just lost it. He just dropped off the map.
Huh.
So.
I like what I've seen from him, but I haven't seen enough to like totally love it. I get him and William Friedkin mixed up. I guess because they both have F's for last names, and they also both
Early-
did.
Early Friedkin is also pretty great.
I've seen The Exorcist, Sorcerer. Sorcerer's really
Dude,
good.
Sorcerer's
Sorcerer's
so good.
really good.
Yeah.
Sorcerer's a hell
French
of a movie.
Connection's fucking great.
Yeah,
too.
French Connection's really good. Yep.
You've been picking your feet. You've been picking your feet.
Wait, you've been in Poughkeepsie? Picking your feet in Poughkeepsie? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really good. All right, I'm going to deviate from you guys a little bit because I think we've covered the classics. I'm going to go a little more modern. Because, frankly, that's kind of like... I feel like I'm a little bit more recent into like finding some of the stuff that you guys have turned me on to, because talking to both of you guys has really opened me up a lot to discovering older stuff. Like, I didn't know anything about Bava or a lot of the Italian stuff, and now I love that stuff. But they're not really, I guess it's not really one director, but a pair that's always stuck with me is the Coen brothers.
Yeah.
I think has really... I love their stuff. I mean, all the way back from, like, if you look at the run that they had from, like, Blood Simple, Raising Arizona, Fargo, Miller's Crossing, Barton Fink, like, that's fucking amazing. That's, like all the way from the late 80s into kind of the mid-90s, I think is fantastic. They kind of had a weird dip, like, in the early 2000s, I feel like, with, like, The Lady Killers, and Burn After Reading is, like, it's okay.
I liked it.
I like it all right. But then, you know, they have, like...
Serious Man.
I have seen A Serious Man. I did...
Extremely underrated.
Yeah, I did enjoy that movie a lot. It's very... It's even, like, more dry, I feel like, than most of their stuff. Like, it's pretty damn dry. I like it too. And I need to see... I have not seen Inside Llewyn Davis or Llewellyn. I haven't seen that one either, but...
Haven't either.
You know, No Country for Old Men. Just, like... Yeah, I just feel like almost all of their stuff has some amount of quality. And they kind of remind me of, like, Tarantino in a sense of, like... kind of tackling such a wide range of genre films, but having like this kind of underlying like quirk and humanity that kind of ties it together. You know, like seeing one of their films and being like, oh, that's like such a, you know, it's even become like a trope almost to say like that's a Coen Brothers thing.
That's actually
the cat's coming across.
I just want to see the cat like walk across.
He can walk across if he wants. I just don't want him to knock the microphone over.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So that happened. Thank you, Pancakes. But yeah, I've really enjoyed all of the Coen Brothers stuff that I've seen, and I feel like they're one that I keep coming back to, and when I watch a new one of their movies, I always enjoy it. Yeah. Paul Thomas Anderson is one that I really like a lot. I had to make sure I wasn't saying W.S. Anderson.
Yeah, could be.
I was like, well, there's two Paul Andersons, and one of them does one thing, and the other one does another thing. Yeah, I mean, Paul Thomas Anderson, I've absolutely loved. Like, I think him along with like Christopher Nolan are kind of one of the holdouts for like big classic. They kind of feel like, I don't love Christopher Nolan that much. I feel like he kind of like lacks humanity in like a lot of his stuff. I feel like his stuff is like kind of grand and epic, but kind of hollow in a certain sense. Yeah. But I feel like both of those guys, they feel to me like they're trying to recapture the 70s, like when they make like their movies, like because they're kind of like they insist on shooting on film, and you know doing like, I think both of them have made movies in 70 millimeter in the last decade, and it feels like to me like those are the kind of guys that are like, especially Paul Thomas Anderson, like the last bastion of kind of like new Hollywood 70s filmmaking, which is, you know, fucking awesome. Like Inherent Vice reminds me a lot of The Long Goodbye. Like they kind of have like that similar like drugged out, like not sure what's going on California thing, and like There Will Be Blood has kind of a feeling of like that epic, you know, old school thing. The Master is fantastic. I mean, I like almost everything I've seen from him, but I feel like I just really appreciate that he's kind of like the last stalwart, or like holding out for like really strong, creative, smart American filmmaking. Because as much as I like Star Wars and Jaws and blockbusters, like I definitely think the late 70s changed what American filmmaking was a lot. You know,
became a blockbuster.
Yeah, it became and you kind of lost a lot of that like new Hollywood creativity to, I think, like foreign films a little bit more, like in the 80s and 90s. So I like that somebody like Anderson is keeping the flag flying, you know, for like really smart, intelligent, and really well executed stuff.
I tend to gravitate towards the 70s.
Yeah, I know MJ does too, and that's something that I'm opening up towards from talking to both of you guys, and like now that I know about it a little more, like early 70s, mid 70s, like new Hollywood stuff, it's so amazing.
Yeah. I mean, just there seemed to be a certain amount of freedom.
Yeah.
It wasn't all committee.
Well, I feel like
They
you
could
had
try
like
things, and
I feel like you had director vision coming out in a way that maybe like the studio system had like suppressed a little bit more before that.
yeah,
You know.
yeah, exactly.
Well, I think the studios at that point in time were panicking. Actually, just picked up a book about that subject. It's called Easy Riders and Raging
yeah.
Bulls.
There you
But
go.
Yeah, I think there was a documentary also.
yeah. So I'm kind of gonna hope to dive into it this break. But yeah, it's kind of like the studios were floundering at that point in time. They had no idea what to do, so they're just throwing out at like at a dartboard, just whatever, go for it. Here's some money.
Yeah, it suddenly became the creators had a say.
Yeah, well, like
going on.
with something with Easy Rider, it tapped into the youth in which the studios didn't quite understand, in the way that the studios didn't quite understand. So they said, well, maybe that's what's doing it, and so they started.
Maybe if we don't get it, that's what people want.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so they started throwing money at these people, the counterculture, pretty much. They started throwing all this money at them in hopes to kind of capitalize even more because of how big of a hit Easy Rider was. And then so that's when you saw like all these creator-driven films coming out throughout the early 70s, and then of course you had Star Wars and Jaws hit, and at that point there went
Changes the landscape.
Yeah, it totally changed it. Totally changed their outlook on it all. Especially, I mean, that on top of you have directors who were going way over budget in
well, it's like Francis Ford Coppola,
Cimino,
like you can't
Coppola,
like Apocalypse Now,
Cimino.
like and stuff like that, like and Heaven's Gate with Cimino and Deer Hunter and stuff. It's like at some point the vision becomes so excessive that it's like, I mean, and I love Apocalypse Now, like that is probably tied with 2001 for like my favorite movie, but it's just like so overblown, so over budget, so stuffed. There's even like 50 minutes that are cut from like the definitive edition or whatever, and apparently that costs like near $1 million to film stuff that didn't even end up in the movie.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because before I came over here, I dusted off my copy of. Have you ever seen Z Channel?
No.
Okay, it's a documentary about this channel that used to exist, I guess, in California. They'd show all kinds of great movies. And the Heaven's Gate was one of those things where it just bombed. And Z Channel actually brought it back, and they advertised, and they said, we're to show the entire.
Uncut. Criterion has that now, like the uncut.
I think it's because of that. Because
that
even because that happened is why we have the full cut of that. But
it totally recontextualized the film.
Yeah.
Because before that, it was like a huge failure critically and financially.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of actually I was reading about when I was watching Sorcerer. Sorcerer came out like this either the same week or the week before the first Star Wars movie, and that like that a lot of people say is like kind of the tipping point from like new Hollywood into blockbuster. Where it's like. Because Sorcerer didn't do well at all.
I think the reason for that there were no sorcerers in that movie.
Yeah, that's
whatsoever.
True.
And
no.
I think it was false advertising.
False advertising.
Although a good movie, and I guess.
Well, the truck is called Sorcerer. Technically, so there is a sorcerer. In the film.
Well, that was the remake of Wages of Fear.
It is. Yeah. Well, yeah. I was reading about that too. Like Friedkin refuses to say that he says it's not a remake. Like he won't say, because they're both based on a novel. Or a short story of some variety, and that it is the same idea, transporting nitroglycerin.
It seemed like there was more background story to Sorcerer.
Oh yeah, because you see the guys end up in the village at the beginning of it.
But it was very much.
But it's like it's sort of like because Apocalypse Now came out in 79. I think Heaven's Gate came out in similar time. I don't know, maybe 80, something like that. But those are kind of like the last, like you were saying, MJ, like the last bastion of that, like here's all the money, like this we sank the ship with this, but like at least we made it, kind of thing, like we did it. Another one of mine that I think is just one of my favorites is Roman Polanski. I know maybe not the most popular guy right now with all of I think like there was just a case that like reopening a sexual assault case on him. I really don't care about that stuff, at least in the context of this conversation, but I just think he's such a really has such an awesome voice and vision. Like Rosemary's Baby, Repulsion, Chinatown's one of my favorites. Knife in the Water, even like his earlier kind of Polish stuff.
Have you ever
Have you
seen
seen
the Tenant?
Yeah, I was just about
I
to
have
say
not
that.
seen. No, because I know there's like with the Tenant, Cul-de-sac, and I think Repulsion, or like maybe I don't. There's like a number of movies that he did that are kind of like centered around like isolation and like apartments and stuff like that. I've not seen the Tenant. No,
I'll lend it to you.
That's
I'll
you'll ship it to me. And then I also haven't seen like I've heard his Macbeth is really good. And then
right after his wife died.
yeah, was it killed by Charles Manson, or
Yeah,
you know,
his
related
followers.
things. And then also he did the movie what was it, Tess, with Nastasia Kinski, Klaus Kinski's daughter. Again, I haven't seen. So like there's more things that I want to get into from Polanski that I haven't gotten into, but it's everything I've seen from him I've just been it just blows me away. I think he has such a cool, and especially like the endings of his movies like Chinatown, Repulsion, Rosemary's Baby, like those are movies that build to a crescendo, and then you get to the ending and like I mean the ending of Rosemary's Baby when they're all sitting around there and she's like, what happened to its eyes? And they're like, it's not Jack, I don't know what her husband's name is, it's not his father, like Satan is her father. I'm like, holy shit, like I don't know, like I love that. And the end of Chinatown, when the end of Chinatown gets me every time. It's just so, you know, he shoots Faye Dunaway when she's like getting away, and then was it John Huston, right? He takes the daughter away, and like it's just like everything's gone to shit, and they're like, oh, don't worry about it, it's Chinatown or whatever, forget about it. I just love that so much. I love Polanski's like vision and sort of like his willingness to stick to like some truly twisted shit, like some like really just not happy endings. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, Stanley Kubrick I wanted to mention, but like that's almost goes without saying. I feel like there aren't that many people who are into movies that aren't into Stanley Kubrick. Like I don't know how you could be, you know.
The list I made was just like an hour or so ago because I reread your email and I was like, oh crap, I better write something down. And so I'm sure an hour.
Oh yeah, could
from
pull
now,
a couple more.
I'm gonna be like, oh my god, I can't believe I
didn't talk.
didn't
I mean,
mention
what is it? David Lynch is one for me that I think is really really special. Just that kind of like
How
surrealist.
can you pick just one?
I know it's not. Yeah, it's not. I just think like it. I just wanted to kind of have this conversation to give people an idea of like, you know, when we're talking about movies, like if we do future episodes of the podcast or future reviews and stuff on the channel, like this is kind of the space we're coming from, you know, like sort of like a space of like a little more reverence for the past and like quite a bit of creator input. And I think like certain moods and ideas and genres kind of like bubble up to the surface a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know who's another director? Because you're just saying that like, oh yeah, I'll remember later. I just remembered, considering you're saying more modern directors would be Bong Joon-ho. I really like him as a director. I think Memories of a Murder is fucking fantastic.
I mix up him and
film.
there's like 3 Korean directors who unfortunately their names sound similar to me, which sounds stupid, but like I don't know, like Park Chan-wook is it? And then Bong
Park
Joon-ho.
Chan-wook.
Who did Old Boy? Park Chan-wook?
Yeah, that's Park Chan-wook.
Okay. Bong Joon-ho did Mother? Question
Yeah,
mark?
Mother's
Memories fantastic.
Yeah. Have you seen Memories of a Murder?
I have not, no.
If you like Mother, it's like in that same vein.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, there was a time when I was like pretty into like South Korean extreme like horror cinema, because there's like the Vengeance stuff that Park Chan-wook was doing, and then Boon Jong-ho he also did The Host, right?
Yeah, he did The Host, Snowpiercer. He did Okja recently.
I did not like Snowpiercer. I wanted to like Snowpiercer so bad. I did not like
it.
It
Had some nice scenes, but some of it just did not work.
Yeah, it was weird. But it goes to say that if you're into like horror or that kind of stuff at all, like South Korean like extreme cinema, like, and those kind of couple directors that were doing that, like there's some nasty stuff in there, and it's good. It's well made. It's
brutal.
Really good. It's brutal. It's awesome. I also wanted to throw out there Charlie Chaplin, just because I think the world of him, like his silent films, especially like his ability to do pantomime and physical acting, I think is like unparalleled. Like I watch his stuff and I just laugh my ass off. Like I just love it so much. Modern Times and City Lights and The Gold Rush and all that stuff. That's what I'm more familiar with. I'm not as familiar with like his post stuff, like with like Limelight and
The Great Dictator.
The Great Dictator. That one I do like. There's another one too that I don't know. He sort of started doing fewer films when he got later in life. I think he ended up like living in Switzerland and stuff. Like I'm not exactly sure what his life ended up being, but
I think there was a similar instance where he had to leave.
Yeah, some type of not great thing. Anyway, the Charlie Chaplin, I really love his style of like kinetic visual gag filmmaking. I think it's so good.
I remember I took years and years ago the history of narrative film as a class, and they were showing the Charlie Chaplin, the Buster Keaton, and I wasn't really that excited about it, but once it started rolling, it was the best.
It's so good.
It was so good.
So good. Yeah, awesome. I'm sure, if anybody comes up with other directors that we left out, please just shout it out during the course of the next couple minutes. And also, if you guys in the comments, if you're watching this or listening to it, let us know who some of the people that you're into are, because I'm always looking for more. I wanted to transition into, just because I have a scene in mind that I wanted to talk about, and I'm curious. I don't know if you guys prepared. Do you have like a scene or like one thing that kind of like sticks with you? Or
I mean,
I know that's a specific question out of a field of things.
Not really, but I picked one just for the hell of it.
Shoot.
I know you've seen Tampopo.
Get up on that microphone as much as you can.
Okay.
I have seen Tampopo.
There's a scene in Tampopo where it's kind of silly. There's a Yakuza guy, and it's raining, and he's been shot, and he's saying goodbye to his...
This is the very end of the movie.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny, and it's kind of emotional, and the music's swelling, and it's sort of one of those things where, you're laughing, but you kind of have a tear in your eye. It's stuff like that. That whole movie was like that. Like, no matter what the scene is, you can find the humor and the sadness.
Yeah, when you suggested for me to watch Tampopo, and I picked it up, and I fucking loved it. I mean, I just loved it so much, and I think to your point, like, it kind of is almost like a litmus test for like people's humor, like, because you're right, like kind of finding the humor in like sadness or like something that's like a bit of melancholy, but like also has this like really great humanity running underneath it. This like this real celebration of like food and friendship and like fun and but then also with like a very dark twist underneath it. I don't know. I think
so many
awesome
things
movie.
going on. It's so, and yeah, if you love food, just watch Tampa. But I've seen it several times over the years, and each time I see it, I get something out of it. Sometimes the sad part is funny, sometimes the funny part is sad, and sometimes they're both together. And just watch it.
Yeah, I think that one very easily gets a Cinema Smorgasbord 3 thumbs up.
Yeah.
I think we would all probably tell you, and Criterion has a lovely release of it.
Yeah. Finally, I was hoping for years that they would pick that up, and they did.
Yeah, I almost imported a Blu-ray from like Korea or something for like, but way before it even got announced, because Tampopo was the first foreign film I ever saw when I was little. It was just on TV one night, and I was flipping through the channels, and I just ended up on it, and I was like, what is this? I had no idea what was happening. Yeah. I think it was like the sex scene where they're talking about the boar and they're like feeding each other the raw
eggs,
egg.
like raw egg from mouth. Dude, that's a really good scene.
I had no idea. Like, my mind was just like, what is happening? And I watched the rest of the movie that way. And for years, I had no idea what the movie was called.
Just Googling raw egg sex all the time. Your mom's like, MJ, do we need to talk about something?
Like ramen movie. Like, I would type in that and like nothing would come up, like you try and find it, and then till recently I finally figured out what the movie was, and then I was ready to order it, but for whatever reason I put it off, and luckily, until then Criterion picked it up. But yeah, as soon as it came out, that's one of the ones I picked up right away.
Also, I have to mention the scene in the beginning is just like, for all movies, when the Yakuza's sitting in the cinema, and
Yeah.
and the guy's eating his crispy snacks, and just is so infuriated.
Yeah, I know.
So perfect, so perfect.
It is really good. It's that's just a lovely movie. I think that actually is on my things of best things I discovered in 2017.
Nice.
Thanks to both of you guys talking
Nice.
about it.
Dude, watch the making of documentary. That's
I have not
on
seen
the-
it. No.
Watch it. It's like one of those, when you see like Apocalypse Now and then there's Heart of Darkness.
Yeah.
Like it's those two things that go hand in hand. It's same thing with that.
Cool.
So if you get a chance, watch the behind the scenes.
Now I want
stuff
to. Just
with the
talking about it has
director.
made me like fuzzy inside. I don't know. Like, I love them.
And hungry. Actually.
And hungry. Yeah, I could go for some ramen.
Dinner.
You go for some raw egg sticks.
Yeah. Do you want to go next to MJ, or do you want me to truck it?
Sure. I didn't really prepare
Oh, that's
for
fine.
this. So, one that kind of stood out to me from a movie that I saw for the first time, like way at the beginning of the year, is a movie called Runaway Train. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
Don't know that one.
Originally, it was supposed to be directed by Akira Kurosawa, but for whatever reason, it fell through. And then I forget what the Russian. It was. I think it's a Russian director that picked it up. I forget what his name is, but essentially, it's with John Voight and Eric Roberts, and they're breaking out of a prison, and they jump onto a train, and the conductor ends up having like a heart attack or something along those lines.
That's actually on my list. It's one that I've
an
heard
awesome
other people
movie.
talk about. Cool.
It's an awesome movie. Plus, there's a funny cameo from holy crap, what's his name? Oh man,
Japanese, Russian,
No,
American.
no. This is like before who he is now. But
Ernest
Robert
Borgnine.
Rodriguez uses him a lot.
The guy from Machete,
Yeah, I forget
Danny
his name.
Trejo.
Danny Trejo.
Is it really?
Young Danny Trejo is in
Really?
it, playing a prison, playing an
serious?
inmate.
I saw him at a Comic-Con.
Oh, nice.
He was a
I'm sure he was-
tough-looking motherfucker,
I'm
dude.
sure he was tiny though. Like he's tiny, right?
He's tiny, but he's fucking jacked. I mean, he looks like he put some time into his physique.
Well, he was a prison inmate when he ended up
Yeah,
getting.
I guess there you go.
Anyway, so there's a scene where, because John Voight is kind of this like notorious character, who's like been locked away in this prison, like in this snowy setting, and he's kind of like the mad dog prisoner, and Eric Roberts is like the foolhardy kind of young prisoner that looks up to him in a way. And there's a scene where John Voight, it's like a huge monologue that he has, and it's stunning. Like it's an awesome monologue, and he pretty much tells him like how he's going to like when he gets out of prison, when he's free and he goes to work at a job, and that it's a shitty job and all you're doing is picking up dirt, and the manager's a piece of shit, and he comes to you and he tells you missed a piece of dirt. He's like, what you're going to do is you're going to sit there and you're going to smile at him, and you're going to clean that piece of dirt, and you're going to clean it. And it's super intense because it's John Voight like at the top of his game. You're like, holy shit. And Eric Roberts is like, no, man, I'm not going to do that. That's not me. And he's like, it's just like a super intense scene between the two of them. And it just kind of encapsulates like the entire movie just in that one scene. It's a really great scene and a very good movie with some
Runaway Train.
awesome,
I'll have to check that out.
awesome train stuff. Like if you like train movies, like Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3,
I want to see that. I've never seen that.
Well, I mean, speaking of Frankenheimer, there's La Train. If you
yeah, or
The Train.
yeah, the train with what is it, Burt Lancaster, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hitchcock has a couple
But,
train movies too
it's a great.
that are really
That's
good.
one. That's one that like at the beginning of the year I watched it. I was like, holy shit! And I had to like go back and rewatch that one scene because I was like, yeah, like it was so like intense. I like my movies when they have like these really intense moments and they don't back away or undercut it in any sort of way, where it just like makes you feel almost uncomfortable to the level of like intensity that it is, especially when it's like a movie that you're totally invested in. That intensity just like invests you even that much more. And this is a scene that's that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I need to check that out. My choice is the I always think about this. I just remember the first time I watched it, and I've seen it a couple times since. It's the scene with Alfred Molina in Boogie Nights when the main characters in Boogie Nights go to sell him a fake half kilo of coke. You know what I'm talking about? And it's Thomas Jane is their friend, and then it's Mark Wahlberg and who's the guy that's in like all of the Will Ferrell movies? Oh my gosh, he's in a bunch of Paul Thomas Anderson movies too. The guy in Step Brothers. Oh, what is his name?
Steve Brule, the guy who plays Steve Brule.
I don't know.
Yeah. River Wild.
John C. Reilly.
Yeah.
John C. Reilly. There you go. Anyway, and it's the three of them, and they go to their. It's sort of towards the end of Boogie Nights when everything's like gone wrong, and they're like strung out on coke, and they're trying to make like that terrible demo tape of their band that they think is gonna like be good for them. And so they go to Alfred Molina, who plays a drug dealer, who's just in his bathrobe with like a thong on, and he has like this young like Southeast Asian boy like lighting firecrackers in the corner, and it's just a crazy ass scene. It kind of like to me encapsulates like the whole movie, where it's like trying to get something done, but you're like too drugged out or like too wasted to like really know what's going on, so everything's like hyper heightened, and it's just such an amazing scene, like because constantly there's fireworks exploding in the background, and you're just like, what the fuck is going on? And Alfred Molina like pulls out his gun and does like a Russian roulette like fake out with them, because he's like fucking high as shit, and it's playing all these like great 70s music. It's like Sister Christian and like Jesse's Girl and all this stuff. I really love that scene, especially like, I don't know, just seeing like all the actors kind of react and like the tension between like, is he gonna test the drugs, like are they gonna realize it's fake, like the stuff going off in the corner and they're all strung out of their mind. Like I don't know, I really, that always sticks with me as just being like a small kind of encapsulation. It's probably like a 10-minute scene, I don't know, something like that, but it's just like a small encapsulation of like how to just make a tense scene. Like just, it's like just this masterclass of like how to keep audiences like just totally, your heart the whole time is just like because you have no idea what's going to go on, and that's just one that's always stuck with me.
That sounds to me like, well, when I watched Hard Candy, the whole time I was just like, oh, what's going on here?
I've never seen Hard Candy.
Oh, okay.
Is that?
I think we talked about that.
Did we talk about?
Intense.
Yes. Yeah, and there you're basically the director's bitch for the entire film, because you don't know what's going on, and you're kind of siding with one person, and then you're siding with the other, and then back and forth.
Is that one of the like extreme French ones that you were talking about with?
No, it's with what's her name? Ellen Page.
Ellen Page.
Oh, okay.
And the guy who played Night Owl in the Watchmen movies.
Oh, I really like him. What's his name? He's in The Conjuring too.
Yeah.
Patrick Wilson.
Patrick Wilson, correct.
Yeah.
I think he's a really good actor, actually.
Yeah, that movie, I started at 1 a.m. I was just gonna watch a little bit, watch the whole thing. Heart's beating the whole time. Had a headache when it was over. It was really good.
Nice. Are you have you seen Boogie Nights? Have you not seen Boogie Nights?
Yeah.
That one, and then there's another scene from Boogie Nights. Similarly, the scene when Don Cheadle's character stops to get donuts.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, I love that scene. Like he just stops to get donuts, and it's just this amazing scene, like where totally unrelated stuff, like things that have nothing to do with the main plot, like just changes life forever, and just kind of comes into this shop. Things happen, and then he leaves like a different person from 5 seconds of randomness. And I just really love that like moment, that kind of playing with like expectations, because I feel like when you watch movies a lot of times you're like, oh, the main character is going to do this, or like the main character is going to survive, or like the side character is going to do this, and like just kind of sideswiping you with something totally unexpected. Like,
yep.
I really love that a lot. All right, let's crush through some of our favorite finds from 2017.
Okay, I'm just gonna
list it.
My two favorites of 2017 are not unusual, and I wouldn't say they're finds. You know, everybody knows about them, but they're my favorites of the year. The Thor Ragnarok and Get Out.
Yeah, Get Out was really good.
Thor Ragnarok, I think, was just action comedy. It had heart. Just really good feeling film. My only concern about something like this is that they're all going to try and be Guardians of the Galaxy from now on, and I think it would work for a little while, but
I even felt that about Star Wars. I thought there were way, in my opinion, too many jokes in that. Like I felt like even like when I saw that, I was like, oh, this feels like a Marvel thing. Like Last it feels Jedi. Like Last Jedi. It feels like they take asides to be like, haha, that was a joke because you like that. We know you like that. like you fucking, we know you like that.
Well, I'm thinking conversely, like The Punisher. Though
I watched
not a movie.
I watched it.
That was brutal. Did not. I mean, it fits in the superhero world, but it had its own agenda, and it worked. It worked very well. And I'll say Get Out. It's one of the best horrors I've seen in a really long time. It had the horror element, it had the social commentary, it had comedy also. I can't say enough good things about it. The acting was wonderful.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
It was a good one.
And were there any older things that you like discovered this year that really?
Oh God! Well,
wet your whistle.
I didn't know I was supposed.
Oh no! I was just
there's hundreds now things I have to think about. Okay. So a little while ago, I went online to see like how many movies came out in 2017. And it was like 12,717. And so so I went down the list. I went down the list of some of the good ones, and I got about 2,000 in, and then blood started coming from my eyes. And so I decided just to leave it at that for now. But I saw some interesting titles, so I have not seen these, and this might be an idea. This might be an idea for future shows. Maybe we can check some of these out and get back and
we
see what's
should
going
just
on.
Make up a movie plot based on the title.
Yep, sounds good. Okay, so I'll just read a couple of these that have come out in 2017. Japanese release called "Let Me Eat Your Pancreas." Anything called "Let Me Eat Your Pancreas" is gonna get viewed by me, and it got a high rating, probably as high as Last Jedi, which is pretty interesting. Space boobs in space. Not a high rating on that one, so I'd probably just avoid that.
Space boobs or space babes?
Space boobs in space.
Oh, okay. Because I think that there was a movie recently that came out also, Space Babes in Space.
Okay, it might have been a typo. Yeah, that's what I read it many times and verified that's what it was being said. There's one called Han Solo, H-A-N-H. Maybe it's Hannah Solo. That looks interesting. Bong of the Living Dead.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and Werewolves of the Third Reich.
Is Bong of the Living Dead a Full Moon title?
I'm not sure, but it got a 9.3, which is like
on what
IMDb. I don't know what that means. I don't know what the rating system.
I think it's just like everybody that's seen the movie votes on it.
But that's pretty high. I think it's it's better than Star Wars and Thor and all these others. So
it's a cult classic.
Yeah. So yeah, those are some of the.
We'll have to check those out. Yeah. Bong of the Dead. I love the search history for anybody watching this podcast is going to be like raw egg sex, space boobs in space, Bong of the Dead. It's going to be like the strangest search history ever. Very nice. My favorite 2017 stuff. I think the newer movies that I saw that I really liked. I really enjoyed John Wick 2, Chapter 2, which I forgot came out this year, but I was reading and I think it did come out this year, just way early in the year. Maybe. Yeah. But I think the John Wick series is fucking tight. Love it. Think it's super good. And I really liked Blade Runner a lot, 2049.
Yeah.
That I didn't see that many movies in theaters. I saw like a couple comic book movies just because people I knew wanted to go. Like I thought Thor was all right. I thought Justice League was fucking awful. And then most of the other ones were somewhere in between. I didn't think Guardians of the Galaxy was that good. Volume 2.
I liked it better than the first. Actually.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot less, I think.
I had a weird experience with it watching.
How so?
Guardians.
Did it involve space
Involving
boobs or
eggs.
bongs?
No. It's because I don't go to the movie theater often because people bother me. But I went and there was maybe like 5 other people in the theater. So every time there was like those jokes.
Something was supposed to hit.
Yeah, and none of them were hitting. So it was really uncomfortable.
Oh, interesting.
A lot of the time. So it would be like, hey, funny joke. And then it would just like, they give you a moment to laugh. They give you like that pause beat, and everybody in the theater was just quiet. And you just hear like,
and then nothing happens. And then,
no, there was none of that.
Wow.
It was really weird. Like, I think people were enjoying it. They just weren't receptive. And that's like, it made it really uncomfortable. Like it made the jokes really painful and obvious where they felt unnatural and injected in there. So I was just like, oh man, like I don't know. It really colored my opinion of the film.
I felt about that like I felt like that was the most to me like a Disney movie that I'd seen where they were like, remember in the first one when you liked when the raccoon was funny, you fucking idiot? Now he's gonna be funny again. And I was like, okay. Like remember in the first one when he said this thing and he liked that mixtape? You liked that fuckhead. Now watch it again. Like it felt like I was watching a South Park trailer, when it's like that episode where it's like Rob Schneider is blah blah blah, but you're gonna watch it anyway, you fucking idiot. Like I just felt like it felt like to me like it was so much like, remember all that stuff you liked before? Like, let's just fuck it into this and you're gonna like it again. Like, and I'm kind of worried that this is a discussion for a different podcast, perhaps. But I'm kind of worried. Like, Last Jedi kind of made me feel that way too, where it's like you like those jokes. Like now, here's those jokes in Star Wars. Like, I'm kind of worried that everything from Disney is like trending towards that. Like that they can't make something that's straight faced anymore. Like it's just too much. Like
that's what I was saying about Thor. I thought with Thor it worked. It worked very well. I just hope they don't do that with all of them.
Yeah. Like oh you went and saw that, so like you're gonna like this kind of. I don't know.
Yeah, and I didn't get that from Guardians 2, but I think they should just kind of be careful about it, not stop altogether, but don't do it for everything.
Yeah. It just feels like it's too focus grouped to an extent. Like they went through the list of reviews and they were like, plus people like the comedy, people like the this, and then it's like, now run that through the algorithm. Like here's the movie we get now.
Now let's run it into the ground.
Yeah, exactly. I'm kind of worried about that.
Yeah.
Then,
can I say one thing?
Oh yeah, please.
Blade Runner, I really like that also. And a lot of people have been complaining about the length of it. That it was too long, and a good 45 minutes could have been cut. But everyone I've talked to has told me that there was at least one person snoring during the show.
Yeah, the girl that I was seeing with fell asleep on my arm.
But I will say, in its defense, it has a droning kind of thing. The music and the visuals. I think this is just a world that you.
Sleepwalk through.
You just absorb it. You go into it. There is a little action. There's some action, but I think it's more about contemplating, reality and these elements that are being kind of.
It's meditative.
Given to you. Yeah, I thought the whole thing was a meditation, and especially the music.
I was about to say the music, especially. It is so overwhelming, and then it will kind of drop out completely, and you'll be like, "Oh, what's going on?" And then it'll be like, like just destroy.
Yeah,
you.
And I have to say there were parts of it where I did feel half asleep and half awake, and I like that. Like I will probably buy the movie so I can get that experience again and just. Dwell on some of these ideas.
I had that when he was going into the sort of like the desert area when he's like kind of walking into like the he's going. Is it like Las Vegas? I don't know where he's going to find Harrison Ford. In it, and he's kind of like going through, and you're seeing all these like huge like monument kind of things, and the music is overwhelming, and nobody's talking, and it's like that for like 20 minutes of like him kind of like going through, and you're right, it kind of puts you in like this state of like, yeah, like MJ was saying, like meditative or kind of like sort of halfway between like thinking about stuff, but then like letting your brain drop out so that the visuals and the music just overpower it. It's kind of like a cool in between.
I mean, as a matter of fact, I thought of the soundtrack as being like menacing meditation.
Dark meditation.
What I thought at the time. Yeah, I would definitely buy it just based on that experience.
Did you see that, MJ?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think they just announced the 4K disc of that is coming out soon. It's going to look really good. Yeah, I'm very excited to see that. And then I think for me, the thing that I discovered from the past that I really liked this year was the Yakuza, which I had never seen or heard anything about, but it's a film starring Robert Mitchum, directed by Sidney Pollack, I think. And I think probably both of you guys have seen this. I'm pretty sure, MJ, you've seen it. I think we talked about it when I watched it
years ago.
Yeah. And I just really loved it. I think it was co-written by was it Robert Town, who wrote Chinatown? I think that was the guy, and it's just immaculately directed. Robert Mitchum is awesome. It's kind of this story of this like older guy who was stationed in Japan around like the post World War II, like U.S. occupation of Japan, kind of coming back to Japan now in his older age with kind of regrets of where he left relationships off with this woman, and it's awesome. It's so good. It's so good. It has like a lot. It does not like hold your hand. Like, I mean, it just throws you into like the idea of like the Yakuza and like the way that they behave towards each other, and like you immediately have to pick up on the culture and kind of roll with it, or I think you might feel a little lost. But if you're up for like paying attention to something that's like pretty smart in the way it just kind of immerses you in that culture, I thought it was awesome. Like I was really happy to see it. It was I think one of those movies from a similar time period of stuff we were talking about earlier, like mid 70s. I think probably like 75 or 6 or something. That just looks stunning, especially the end. There's like an extended fight scene through kind of like this traditional Japanese building, and the shots are amazing. Like it's kind of going above all of them, and it's Robert Mitchum with like a shotgun and like a pistol just like busting through like rice like wall, like doors, and like shooting dudes with a shot. And it's just like and then simultaneously his friend is like shirtless, like katana, like kind of traditional. It's such a cool juxtaposition of like big Western man coming in and like messing things up for people in Japan and not realizing that he was doing it at the time, and kind of having to like deal with that reality. Yeah, I thought it was really well made movie, and one that I wish I had seen before, and definitely added to the list of my favorites.
Cool.
Nice.
MJ, what did you have?
I didn't really see a lot of new movies, man, this year, so I don't really have a lot to say. I did watch a movie called Men in Chicken.
I don't know that.
I don't know if it's Dutch or Swedish, but it has Mads Mikkelsen in it.
Okay.
Oh. I had never seen a movie with him that wasn't excellent.
And it's a comedy. Kind of. It's so weird. Mads Mikkelsen plays a character who's like a chronic masturbator, and he has a brother who had like they it's like a brother story, but they have like weird quirks, and they both have hair lips, and they find that like their dad dies, and in the video that like the video will, he tells them like, I'm not your real dad, and your mom's not your real mom, like this person is your real dad. And then the tape gets recorded over by like some VHS like recording of like a commercial of some programming, and they're like, wait, what? And so they like go to find their real father, and in doing so they end up on like an island with like I think it's like 40 occupants. Like that's the what makes the town is like there's 40 people living in this town on this island, and that's the town. And they go to like this big giant abandoned insane asylum where his family lives, or where their family lives, and the brothers all have hair lips, and they're all off. Like one of them
Sounds
carries
very
around
strange.
What's the title again?
Men and Chicken. It is super weird. It's like a black comedy. Um, I don't know how to explain it, man, because there's like brothers. They all have.
I think you've said it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty
Well, the
wild.
thing is, they all have some sort of like. There's clearly something wrong with them. Like one of them carries around stuffed animals, and not like a plush doll. I mean like taxidermied animals, and he
Oh.
strikes people with them. And then like it's his attack weapon is like a giant stuffed fox, and like he just beats people with it. And then there's another dude who carries around a big 2x4, but it's like absurdly huge, like and he hits people with it, and like they're constantly arguing and bickering, and it's just really weird. There's like a scene at a dinner table where they're like getting to a big argument because they have these different plates with animals on them. So there's like an owl, a dog, a cow, and like two brothers get into like a violent argument because one brother wants the dog, and then the other brother wants, the other brother has like a cow, and he's like, no, but it's my turn. It's my turn. I get the dog this time. And like he's like, no. Mm-mm. And they have to like, it's so weird. It's like one of those movies where it's just like real dry comedy.
Yeah, it's like kind of like it sounds like kind of like absurdist. Have you seen what's his name, Yorgos Lanthimos' stuff like Dogtooth and the
Oh,
Lobster
God,
and
yeah.
stuff like that,
Oh,
where it's
yeah.
just like I don't know if it's exactly like that, but it sounds similar to that, where it's like things come like at you sideways that kind of like seem unexplained, and they're like really fucking dark, but also like really funny in a weird
Yeah.
way. Like it kind of has like this strange like Euro sense of like super dry surrealist humor.
Actually, I wanted to bring up. You said taxidermy, and there's this movie that is insane called Taxidermia.
I've never
Have
seen
you? Okay. We might want to have a show.
Oh,
on that
showing
one.
on that one?
Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
So yeah,
pretty good.
Men and Chicken is pretty good if you like weird, offbeat black comedy. I'd recommend it. It's a newer film that came out, I think, earlier this year. Um, aside from that, I haven't really seen a lot of newer films. But I'm just looking at like my Instagram feed, trying to see like what I've watched.
Yeah, I had to
this
go
year.
back through my letterboxd and see what I had rated highly. I also had
But,
what was the one you recommended to me, The Innocents. That was
Yeah.
really fantastic. I was glad you shared that with me because that instantly became a horror movie that I will like always remember and watch again. It's so unique.
That one's a great one. But I'm just gonna pick two
Okay.
because there's a ton that I watched this year that had some sort of impact on me as far as viewing experience. But the first one that I'm gonna pick is one called The Swimmer with Burt Lancaster.
Okay.
And it's based off of a short story that was, I think, published in the New Yorker, like in the 60s. Um, it is like a Twilight Zone episode set in suburbia, and it's weird because it's
That sounds
just
good.
it's Burt Lancaster in a speedo the entire movie. And so it starts off with like these beautiful landscapes of trees and stuff, and then Burt Lancaster is just kind of comes out of the woods into like this person's backyard, and it's like, oh, it's like a kind of upper crust New York um, bourgeoisie kind of neighborhood, and he ends up like swimming in this swimming pool, and he knows these people, and they're like, oh, hey, how are you doing? Like, we just had a party. Oh, we have a hangover. And you're just kind of like, what the fuck is going on? Like, he just came out of the woodworks, and he's in a speedo, and he just started swimming in their pool. And he just gets this idea of like, hey, I'm gonna go home. They're like, oh, you want me to give you a ride? Like, we can give you a ride home. He's like, no, you know what, I'm gonna swim my way home. And they're like, what are you talking about? And he's like, there's he like names a series of people that he knows along the way that all have pools. And so essentially he's making a route to where he's hitting these pools on his way back home.
I
So
feel
every
like
single
Seen that?
it sounds really familiar.
is really good. It's such a simple plot. That's the whole plot. It's just him making his way back home by like going to these people's pools and swimming in them. But every single pool you get like different vignettes and of his story.
Hmm.
And you get like little bits and pieces here and there, but you're not getting like a full narrative as to what is going on or who he is. So you're kind of getting like, huh, something feels off about this, or something feels weird. Like you get moments, and it's like a Twilight Zone episode.
Sounds
And
really
it's also,
interesting.
yeah, it's really good. And it's just really off, like offbeat. Um,
It's reminding me of another film, but I can't remember the name. I'm trying to figure it out. It's killing me.
but
Well,
yeah, I would
next
recommend
time.
it. And Burt Lancaster in this, like his physique is crazy. There's one Burt Lancaster. He used to be an acrobat. Was it? Is
Oh, I
that
didn't
what it
know
was?
that.
Yeah, he is like in crazy good shape all the time. He's
I watched The
like
Leopard
Charles
with him
Bronson
this year.
type character where he's like he was in his 50s, like late I
Oh yeah,
think
yeah.
late 50s in this movie, and he's like, I mean, he looks old, he looks leathery, but he's still like in
Iggy Pop
incredible
style.
shape. Yeah, no, not that bad, dude. He doesn't look. Jesus.
Dude, Iggy Pop looks crazy. I saw like a bunch of memes of like people like photoshopping faces into his like torso and stuff, just
Yeah,
because
I've
his
seen
like
that.
his skin looks like a fucking face. That's so
Or where they
weird.
put like
His like
his
skin
abdomen
on somebody
onto his
else's face. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It looks like a dude. It's super weird. I mean, he's
Uh,
like 70 though or something, so killing it.
so yeah, I'd recommend The Swimmer. The Swimmer is one that really
I'll have to check that out. That sounds really good.
um I'll do two more.
Oh, go
Sorry.
for it.
Another one is called the Oxbow Incident. It's a
Yeah.
Western. I can't really go too in depth into talking about it, but it's essentially three men are. It's kind of like 12 Angry Men,
Okay.
but in the West,
Okay.
if that makes any sense. And yeah, it's these three men that are being accused of what is it, robbing or cattle robbing, I think is what it was. Um, and they're essentially being tried to be hung. And it's a really good one. It's
So it's
one
like
that
similar
where
like a what's the term for that? Like a boxed like a movie that all takes place in one place. Like 12 Angry Men, like
oh,
all takes place in the
I
jury room or whatever.
it's
There's a
a
term for it, but I forget what the term is.
yeah, I know what it is too.
But is this something like that though, where it's like one extended scene for like most of the movie?
Kind of. I mean, there are different settings. It doesn't all just take place in like a courtroom. It's like
Okay.
all out around a campfire, the majority of it, but there are the other settings.
I like that. I like that idea, like playing with something that's like kind of limited in scope, but like revealing information to you, and like as it goes along, kind of like recontextualizing like what's happening. Like I think that's a
Chamber
really cool idea.
chamber drama. Is what
Chamber,
you're
there you
thinking.
go. Yeah, chamber picture.
Um, so yeah, that's another one that the ending really was like, holy shit, that was awesome. Um, but one that I watched recently, and this is one of those ones that kind of went to my Sidney Lumet uh, point earlier of just kind of like watching a movie and then being like, who directed that? Holy shit! Like, uh, was The Offense with Sean Connery.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Holy crap, man! That movie was like a roller coaster ride. The entire thing was just like constant, just uncomfortable, the whole thing, and it was weird.
Because early on, you don't even know what's going on.
No,
It's
exactly.
very
That's
kind
what
of trippy.
it's jarring. Like the whole movie is just like this entire experience because what it is there's a pedophile like murderer in what is it, Britain, the UK, somewhere over there,
Somewhere that's not America.
across
Who
yeah,
gives a
somewhere
fuck?
across the
That
pond.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
But there's like a serial murderer that's going around, and Sean Connery is trying to stop it. But you get like these weird moments of where you can't like they kind of hint to like Sean Connery being something more than just a detective because there's these like just real brief, real like super brief, like just a look. He'll give a look, and you're like, that was weird. That was a weird look. stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, the way it tells its story, because it'll start from like it just starts in the middle of like this investigation, but it's like right in the middle of like a ploy to catch him almost, where they're waiting like after a school lets out. So you're like, okay, what's happening? Like you're just thrown into this thing. So you're kind of like left to piece it together. And then all of a sudden, the way it tells the story is it does like this whole series of events happens, but it happens in slow motion. And they only show you like a small portion of it. And then they show you the aftermath of that event so that you only get to see from one side of it, and then they show you the aftermath of it, and then they go back and they show you what happened in that time frame.
That sounds pretty strange structure.
Yeah, so they show you what happens within that time frame, and within that time frame it's like fucking mind-blowing. It was really good. And it's really intense, really dark. Yeah, if you just want a movie where you're like, whoa, what the hell, I would highly recommend it. I can't really talk about it because it totally gives away. Like already, I feel like I've maybe given away too much in saying like what it's about, like in a broad sense. But I don't know, because sometimes I think there's those movies that you kind of need to just go in and experience it without knowing anything about it, and I think it helps make a bigger impact than it would have if you had known what it was or where, just even a framework to wrap your mind around. So yeah, that's my other one, is The Offense.
The Offense. Awesome. So now everybody that's listening to the podcast has a homework sheet, including me.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, I'm writing stuff down.
Awesome. So that pretty much wraps up what we were going to talk about today. I have a proposition for you gentlemen. I would like to do at the end of these podcasts, I think it would be fun to have people write in or for us to pick one. I want to do movie 20 questions. So we pick a movie, and then the other people that are on the podcast have 20 questions to figure out what movie it is. How's that sound to you guys? Okay?
Sure.
So I have a movie picked. And between the two of you, you now have 20 questions to figure that movie out. So I'm not going to try not to show it to Don. So go for this is our first round. We're going to keep track of if you get it or not. 20 questions, movies edition. So hit me up with your questions. We'll keep track of them. Start anywhere. I feel like starting with a time period is good, narrow down.
Don't tell me how to play the game, Will.
Hey, I'm going to tell you what the fuck I want to tell you. It's yes or no questions only.
I feel like just wasting all of the questions on impertinent.
Hey, go for it. This is up to you. You got 20 questions, yes or no's.
Don, you have any questions?
Is it Star Wars?
Is it No. Okay, one question. One question down. Not Star Wars.
Is that how we'll just guess every single one?
Yeah, you have 20 guesses. Is it Star Wars? Is it Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2? It's not that either, spoiler alert.
Is Vanilla Ice in it?
Vanilla Ice is not in it.
Okay. So that takes out 2 movies.
Okay, so that's 2.
It's not
Well, no,
Cool as Ice.
because what was the one with Adam Sandler? That's My Boy. Vanilla Ice was very
in
good
that?
in that one.
Yeah?
Oh yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there we go. It takes out 3 movies.
Is that the one with Andy Samberg and Adam Sandler?
It was.
I
And
heard
you know
that
what?
was really terrible.
You know what?
I like Andy
I
Samberg.
kind of have a warm feeling in my heart for that one because Vanilla Ice is in it, and also the character's name is Donnie B.
Oh, so there you go.
So,
that's you.
Yeah, and and there's like on the desk, the teacher carved. Never mind. I'm not gonna say what it. Yeah.
All right, let's get some questions going.
Modern, or is it a modern movie?
No. If by modern you mean in since like 2000 or 1990 or it's not.
Well, it's yes or no question, so yeah, all right.
Well, I had to define what do you mean by modern?
Yeah. Contemporary?
No, it is not. It is not recent release.
Okay.
Is it in color?
Yes, it is in color.
Okay.
Is it before 1980?
Yes, It is before 1980.
Is it a Western?
No, it is not a Western. That's 5.
Is it a genre film?
Yes. I would say it is a genre film. It is, yeah, specific to a type of genre film. That's 6 questions in.
Is it after 1970?
As in between 70 and 80? No.
Yes. No?
Nope.
Okay. But it's in color?
Yep.
Is it a horror film?
No, it is not a horror film. So we know it's before
Not a Western.
1970. It's not a Western. It is a genre film. It's in color. It's not a horror movie.
Is it a science fiction movie?
It is not a science fiction movie. That's 9 guesses.
And it's a genre film? It's not horror, sci-fi, or Western.
Correct.
I think you should make this 20 questions.
It is 20 questions.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, good.
We could do. You know what? We could do 24 questions because it's 24 frames is the channel name. So we can.
There you go.
We could even go to 24 if you guys are feeling real raunchy.
Or,
So far, we're 9 questions in, and we know some things
Very
about
little.
Very little, but some things.
Is it one of
Is
the
it a
movies that we've mentioned so far?
No, it has not been mentioned in today's podcast. Okay. That's
Is it
2
a foreign film?
No, it is not a foreign film. Okay, here's a hint. I like it. It's a movie I like.
Oh, I know. No.
So it's porno.
So yeah, it's porno. Yep. BigSausagePizza.com. All right, we're at 10 questions.
One of the movies on his back wall there.
I don't know. Possibly.
I'm like, hold on, give me an hour.
Yeah.
See, if I had left it,
Blu-ray.
if I had left it in order chronologically,
You
My
could have
God.
looked. Yeah. Well, start guessing which letter it starts with.
Yeah.
Does it start between A and K or whatever?
Yeah.
Does it? No, it does not. Okay. It is not. The title does not start with the first half of the alphabet. There's question 12.
I'm feeling we are not going to get this.
I believe in
Yeah.
you guys.
Is it violent?
No, it is not violent.
Okay. Very little violence.
Very little violence. There are some moments that are, let's say, war adjacent, but I would not call it a violent film. No. I think that's 13 questions. Got 11 more. I believe in
War
you.
adjacent.
War adjacent,
Before
made
the
before
70s.
1970s, genre film in color, not foreign, and by that I mean in English language.
Is it directed by Stanley Kubrick?
Nope, it's not directed by Stanley Kubrick. That's 14. I'll give you a hint. The
Please.
stars of the movie were known for more than just acting. It's sort of there's multiple people that have that star basically in the movie, and they were not just actors. In fact, first and foremost, some of them are not known as actors. I would say. I mean, that's not true. Known as actors, but might have gotten their start in other fields.
L through Q.
No, it does not start but with L through Q.
Q through S.
No,
Really?
That's 16.
Don't tell me it starts with the.
Nope.
Because if that's the case,
No. If
Then
it
that's
started
not a
with
question.
the, I would have probably put it like the at the end.
okay. Yeah. All right.
Nope. It is of the end of the alphabet, but not the.
What did you say, Don? You said Q through S?
Q through S. It's not
Yeah,
that.
I should have said T. I don't know what.
It's not T either.
Okay.
So, genre film, pre 1970, starts with T, U, X, V, W, or Y. I don't know, my alphabet. In color, the stars are known for more than just acting. It's not violent, but it is war adjacent. What else did we figure out about it? It's not foreign.
And you said it's not T.
Not T.
Not T.
T U V W X Y. Or no, U V W X Y.
Curious how many other people are like, duh, it's this. We're just like, oh.
I know you're
Is
cooking
the
one up, Don.
lead character female or male?
I would say there are 4 leads, and they are equally split in gender. There are both male and female leads. I guess technically, if you would say that, like, probably the one biggest person who's like the star build on it is male,
And their name is.
and their name is can't tell you that.
Next time I watch this movie, it's just gonna be. I don't want.
I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to fucking watch
I'm
this.
gonna sell it.
Well, here I'll give you another hint.
Please.
It's probably a movie that you would watch at a specific time of year.
Fourth
It's probably
of July.
not something you would just crank on all the time.
Genre film, war adjacent, before 1970, with
Correct.
a male star, name, lead, whatever.
Who is known for other things besides acting?
The director is, or the
No,
the
the stars.
star is?
The star.
Oh, the stars.
Stars, but also the star.
Stars.
And it's not one you would watch all year. It's one you'd probably watch at a specific time.
Well, it's a Wonderful Life, but forget about it.
No, that is not it.
White
That
Christmas.
wasn't a question, by the way.
White Christmas is correct.
Oh, there you go.
MJ did it. All right. It only took us.
I
It only
thought about
took
that
us
Yeah,
17 questions.
Bing Crosby.
Bing
Okay.
Crosby. Yep. American.
That's funny
film.
because I just watched that the other day.
I fucking love that movie, man. That's my favorite Christmas movie. Snow. That's why I picked it, because it's my favorite Christmas movie, and this is our Christmas episode. I'm sorry I put you through that, Don.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Next time you'll be even better at it. Next time you can pick the movie, and then I'll be the guesser. How about that?
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I think that about wraps up our show for today. I hope you enjoyed that, especially the last 20 minutes.
3/4 of the show, just
3/4 of the show on 20 questions. Any final thoughts about 2017 movie-wise? Anything we didn't get out in our previous conversations? We liked a lot of stuff. Oh, Star Wars review is incoming. I didn't like it that much. Spoiler alert.
I thought it was. I did not hate it, and I did not love it.
I'm at like a solid 6 out of 10. I've thought about it a lot, and that's sort of where I'm landing.
I'm willing to give it another view, but I felt there was too much going on.
Yeah.
And I would have liked the story to stick with the centralized characters a little bit. I think
It was weird because when Rian Johnson was announced as the director, I was like, surely what's going to happen is this is going to be a well-written and directed movie, which maybe isn't a great Star Wars film. And almost the exact opposite thing happened for me, where it was like, oh, this is an okay Star Wars film, but like actually on a technical level as a movie, I was like pretty disappointed with it. And I was really surprised by that, like based on who he is. Like,
I have heard that there was another 30 minutes, and that maybe in the the DVD, Blu-ray, whatever, the set when it comes out.
like adding 30 minutes?
Yeah, and which,
Make it 3 hours?
which I think if it does kind of smooth those things out, that
Oh
I
my
would be
god,
okay
no
with
way.
it.
I want to see a 90-minute cut. I want to cut out all the bullshit. Anyway, that's
Well,
a different
yeah,
conversation. But I hope you guys enjoyed watching this podcast, listening to it. Thank you so much, Don, for joining me, and MJ for joining me as well. In the future, I think after January, I think Don, I know you and I think are going to try to make some type of regular podcasting content. And MJ, I hope you can be on it as much as possible, but I know your life is busy with school and pregnancies. So whenever you can be on it, I would love to have you on it. And thank you guys so much for joining us for Cinema Smorgasbord. Cinema Smorgasbord. I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much.